Greetings, beloved. Happy Veterans Day. We have an amazing second segment. You know, today's Veterans Day, and I have so many people in my family that have served in the military, both of my grandfathers and also my uncle. We have a special guest today, and I'm so excited. He had over 7 deployments over his many years as a Navy. We have Mr. Michael D. Burton with us. His military title, he was an operations specialist first class, a surface warfare specialist, and he was also the past commander for the Clovis Veterans of Foreign Wars. And he also was a counselor for addictions and helped so many people through PTSD. And I'm here with who?
Corey Black.
Corey Black, and she's going to be helping me interview my wonderful uncle, who's also a musician, who's also a singer, amazing percussionist, saxophone player, just an overall talented dude, and just an amazing role model. And I love him so much, and I'm so happy and overjoyed to have him share Veterans Day with us here today. I'd like to introduce Mr. Michael D. Burton. What's up?
Woo!
You know, it's hard for me to hear you, but I'll do the best I can.
Really?
Well, if you can raise your volume up a little bit, usually people.
Maxed out.
Okay, well, usually people can hear me pretty well, so I'll try to talk up. I've always been a little bit loud. So, all right, so Unc. So first of all, thank you for being on the show today.
I'm glad to be here.
All right, so before we go into your service, you actually grew up as a military brat, traveling all around the world in the Air Force with my grandfather, Will Burton,
Right.
was in the Air Force for years. Do you want to talk about that experience first before we talk about your experience in the military?
I could barely hear what you just said.
Do you want to talk about being a military brat and traveling around the world with Grandpa before you joined the military yourself?
I was so young when he was active duty. He was in from 52 to 72 in the Air Force. So he went to Korea when he first got in, and he retired during Vietnam. And he retired right before I turned 10 years old. But I don't remember everything about it, but I was born in England, moved to Germany, from there to South Carolina. That's where my memories started kicking in, South Carolina, and Indiana, and we moved to California. Then I turned 5 years old.
Yeah. So do you think that affected you at all? Like having him be in the Air Force, having him being in the military, do you think that affected your decision at all to join?
I don't believe it had much effect on. I mean, I think it encouraged me to go to the military. Say that it was okay for me to go to the military. A lot of people, they might think about, should I not? But for me, being that my father was in the military, it made it okay for me.
Okay. So what were the main reasons you that encouraged you and made you make that decision? Because you were I was pretty young when you went into the military. Like, I remember you traveling around and being in Westpac and sending me jackets back from from the Philippines and all that when I was a little kid. What are some of the decisions that made you go into the military?
Actually, it was pretty simple. After high school, I went to City College for a year as a flight science teacher. And I was thinking, after I would graduate college, I'll be so young, nobody's going to hire me to fly a plane. So I went to the military, actually the Army, and said, hey, can I fly for you guys? They said, well, your eyes are not 20/20, you can't fly for us. So I went next door to the Navy office, and they told me the same thing. And but on the other hand, you scored pretty high on your exam, the ASVAB. Said, how about sign you up to be a nuclear electronics tech? Okay. And then at the last minute I changed. But because of that, I went in because I was, what am I going to do? Read this flight science.
Yeah.
Right?
Beautiful.
It's so nice to meet you. I'm so grateful to have you here. I was really curious, what what positive what positive experience, what positive mindset do you feel that you have, having served all that time and coming back? How has that positively influenced the rest of your life?
Positive. It, when I was in, first I was in from 1981 to 2001. And I retired 3 weeks after 9/11.
Hmm.
But if I can go back to the beginning when I first went in, I went in 6 years after Vietnam ended. So there's still a lot of Vietnam vets that were in, and being in the Navy, which is the still most segregated branch of the military.
Hmm.
I did not have a lot of good experience in it at all, not at all. But I told myself I was going to make the best of it. It's just part of my upbringing. Just make the best of it, and I did that. Worked out in the beginning that I got promotions real fast, but as far as other opportunities, didn't seem to work out well. First, too much. Try to get into an officer program, and that didn't work out very well. Some of the racism, I believe, was. So I went through a lot of that when I was in the military. So a lot of good, I can't really say that I brought a lot of good out with me. Only what I made of it,
Right.
that was about it. I don't believe the military really provided a really for me. I just made the best of where I was at.
So one of the things I know that one of the ways I know that you made the best of it is after you, like, he did 7 deployments and in the military, and afterwards you worked a lot with you dealt with some PTSD yourself for while you were in the military, and then you also worked as a counselor for other people who had PTSD, and you also worked with people who had issues with addictions after coming out of the military. Would you like to talk a little bit about some of the PTSD that you dealt with? And also, it's interesting, you spoke about how when people think of the military as being one of the great meritocracies currently in America, and it's just so interesting that even in the modern military that there's certain branches where it's still not a meritocracy. Speak to us a little bit about some of the PTSD that you dealt with, and then some of the PTSD that some of the people you work with dealt with.
Okay. As far as my PTSD, ooh, I usually don't talk a lot about it, but I went through some things when I was on deployment. That includes 2 deployments to the Gulf, and I was also I went to Mogadishu, which most people just know it as Black Hawk Down. So I was a supervisor on the deck of a ship that brought a lot of people. I sent the last of the Marines over to bring people out.
Hmm.
The last people out. But as far as my trip in the Gulf, like I said, 2 trips in the Persian Gulf. And one of my trips, I remember because I was in the office working with radars and communication. One of the trips, we were supposed to pull into the Persian Gulf. We're supposed to pull into port on Christmas Day. And I walk in the operations space, look at the radar screen, and like, hey, how come the land's on the wrong side? And hey, we're chasing some oil smuggling.
Wow.
I was at for Christmas morning.
Yeah.
Also, when I was there, last time I went, 2000, yeah, 2000, and I was on the admiral staff. I was the operations space supervisor, and I remember standing on the admiral's bridge and watching the guys on the flight deck loading bombs on the aircraft, and up in the space where I was at, briefing and debriefing the pilots that were going to fly over Iraq. Part of my PTSD from that, seeing how many buildings we bombed, how many people got killed at this building, got killed at that building.
Wow.
Another part was that Black Hawk Down thing. I was a deck supervisor in the Marines and equipment. So called me on the radio and said, "Hey, I need these people out here." So I call, send me these people, send me their equipment. I'm counting the heads of all the Marines that are walking past me.
Wow.
You know, and looking at the expressions on their face with live ammo on.
Wow.
So I keep track of everybody that's going to each all. And I had.
Wow. All right. So, you dealt a lot with people who had addiction issues, and you worked a lot as an addiction specialist for years.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how so many people in the military had to self-medicate like after their experiences, and like that self-medication and how that affected so many people being in the military?
The coping skills. You know, some people who came in just didn't have the coping skills, and when they start going through things, that they just didn't know how to deal with things, and that what they did. You know, it's self-medicating. If you don't have the right coping skills, it didn't work out for them.
Yeah.
And then a lot of people, when they got back from being overseas, when they're deployed, and the ones that got out of the military and end up with addiction problems, a lot of people just didn't find, you know, like when you do work in the military, say you're in the military and dealing with the ammunition and stuff like that, it's really hard to find a civilian job that compensates you for that. You're not going to be able to find work like that in a civilian community. So what do? You know, while you're in the military, you're dealing with a lot of, you know, $1 million equipment, and you get out and you barely get a job at a car wash.
Yeah.
And so it's a big trend for a lot of people. And it's really difficult for them, and they go through a lot, and their coping skills aren't there, and they end up drinking or using drugs.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah, that's
part of it. You know, so learning the coping skills and retraining to get a job in different locations.
Yeah. So so our family is very musical, and I know that that's a way that you coped. You coped with a lot. That's one way. Your faith and your music is a big part of how you were able to deal.
And exercise.
Yeah, and exercise. You call it. You can't believe this, man. Like, how old are you now, Mike?
I'm 58.
Can you believe it? Look how amazing he looks at 58.
Amazing.
Yeah, like so coping with tell us some of those ways how music, how art, how faith, and how exercise, how that helped you deal with your PTSD, and how that helped you deal as a coping mechanism while in the military, and once you got out, trying to find your land legs again.
Oh wow! But the music has always been part of me. I started playing music when I was 8 years old, and I was a loner, you know. And growing up in the era that I did, there was a lot of I graduated high school in 1980. You can imagine all the civil rights and all that stuff was going on when I was growing up. I remember the end of my kindergarten year when Martin Luther King got shot. So, you know, I was coming up through the civil rights era. And so music was pretty much all I had for myself. And I remember walking around the house, beating on walls, beating on furniture, beating on floor, beating on whatever. And one day my dad brought a conga drum home and said, beat on that. And I've been playing music ever since.
Yeah.
And, the exercise, I started playing soccer when I was old. And it was all pretty much an escape for me.
Yeah, I remember when I was a kid. Like you were doing your congos and your bongos and your djembes and playing all those when I was a kid. Like that's one thing. You were you always had those. And how many instruments do you play now?
Well, other than the congos and bongos, I played sax for a little while. I played French horn for 5 years. I could dabble with keyboards. I'm not that great at it though. Still play drums.
You play the traps, you play drum
now.
sets.
I stopped playing saxophone when I picked up the digital horn, because the digital horn has 100 different sounds. So I started playing the digital horn.
Yeah. You also DJ, right?
Yeah, I DJ. Matter of fact, I DJ tonight. I'm gonna do a karaoke DJ tonight.
And didn't you sing earlier today too?
Say again? Oh, yeah, I had to sing earlier today. Yes. There's a veterans program there, a dedication to a Vietnam vet memorial. There was a memorial that was set up at a restaurant, and a bunch of vets were there, a bunch of folks were there, and they asked me to sing the national anthem for them.
Yeah, which is always I know as
I tried it.
a contentious, which is sometimes a hard time singing the national anthem in this country because you're like when you like when you love a country that you doesn't always feel that loves you back.
Right. I mean, a lot of people don't know about all the different verses.
Yeah,
there's four verses
yeah,
I know of.
And they said the slaves will always say Africans will always be slaves. Yeah, like one of the verses that says like there's a verse in the national anthem that says that blacks will always be slaves. Yeah, so like that's which is one thing that people don't know. The national anthem was written, or the Star Spangled Banner was written after the War of 1812, when England came back, and one of the big issues between England and America in that war was slavery was a huge issue. And another issue for me with the national anthem is that the rockets, red glare, bombs bursting in air will prove through the night that the flag is still there. That says this country the war and rockets and bombs and war is one of the things that make us a country, which is another issue I have with the national anthem because it's a very warmongering song. That's why I prefer songs like America the Beautiful.
Just plainly, it's a racist song.
Yes, it is. Do you have any questions?
You know, I don't have any questions, but I did just want to say thank you for using your experiences, your struggles to help other people that have experienced the same thing, helping people with substance abuse, self-medication, helping people with PTSD, being someone who's gone through that yourself, you're the best person to help other people in that. So I just wanted to express gratitude to you for that.
How has faith, today's topic was keeping hope throughout the midst of the war, keeping hope throughout the midst of the battle. And in some of those battles that you were in, and some of those armed confrontations that you were in, how did your faith, how did that hope sustain you during those times?
Actually, towards the later part of my career, been in '93, I became a licensed minister. I've always been, our family has always been around, and I think I was around 8th grade, and I guess a lot of kids are reading comic books and so forth. I was reading myself to sleep with the Bible every night, starting around 8.
Mm-hmm.
And so my faith grew, and I felt like more like God raised me more than my family did. I did a lot of praying, a lot of reading around that time. As I got older, it just ingrained in me. 93, I became a licensed minister. Yeah. 96, I became on some of my commands, the ships and so forth. I was doing gospel services, preaching and directing choirs and just like having my own church on the ship. Like that. So I did a lot of Bible studies. I did a lot of that. So I did a lot of people, and surprisingly enough to me, I didn't know a lot of people that were around when I was doing that. A lot of people were listening that I didn't even know of. Like they just happened to be in the same room. There's, for instance, 2 guys that I know that never sat down and participated in any of the ministries or anything that I was doing. 2 of them are ministers today.
Wow.
2 of them. I had no idea they were even listening.
Wow.
And I did a lot of other things, talking with other people. Like there was a good friend of mine that's Muslim. Matter of fact, we're still keep in touch. He's a good friend of mine. He lives in Texas. I remember when we were in the Gulf one time, we went to a Muslim mosque, and I just sat in the front, like foyer, sitting there talking to some of the elders while he went inside and did prayer.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of those things. I mean, faith, regardless of what denomination, what religion, you have something to hold on to, something you could believe in other than yourself. It's real help.
Beautiful. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Uncle. We're going to be closing out soon. Is there any last words that you want to give to anybody out there? Whether it's about yourself, your time in the service, how wonderful your oldest nephew is, anything, any last, any last things you want to share?
Oh, wow. One thing that I would like to share too is don't take family for granted. When I remember when I was on deployment, like overseas, could have been during Thanksgiving or Christmas, whenever, being gone, and family gets together. I remember calling home, and my dad would say, "Everybody's here again, but you." And actually, that did hurt a little bit, but at least the rest of the family was together, and at least I was able to communicate with them.
Yeah.
But just don't take family for granted, and really appreciate the time that you spend with them, because you never know, tomorrow might not be here. Anything could have happened to me when I was overseas.
Yeah.
I remember one time I almost got shot when I was in the Philippines.
Yeah.
Just, 'cause I was coming out of a bank.
Hmm.
I was running, and the guy that was guard outside the bank, I just didn't want to get rained on.
Yeah.
So the guard at the outside the bank, I heard him cock his shotgun and said freeze, and so I did, right? And then I guess I'm gonna get wet today. So you never know what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
Go overseas, you never know when you're deployed. Be grateful for family.
Well, I'm glad you froze. I'm so grateful for you. And I know, and we missed having you there eating gumbo and dirty rice with us on those holidays. But you're back now, and make sure you make a big pot of gumbo, couple for the holidays coming up. But
Jacob's mom's gonna do that.
Okay, make sure tell her don't put any chicken or turkey in, and make it seafood gumbo so I can have some if I decide to come back.
Hey, Christmas Eve every year. Every year.
Yes. Well, I love you, Unc. Thank you so much for your service. Thank you for coming on the show. Looking great at 58.
Yeah.
Look at
those. Runs in the family.
Look at those jeans. Look how handsome that man will look at 58. What you call it? I love you, Unc. Once again, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing your story. Thank you for opening up. And thank you for helping others who have served in our military as well, even though our military always didn't serve you back. And even though our country always didn't serve you back, you have my gratitude, you have Corey's gratitude.
So much, thank you.
And you have the gratitude of Amir, our producer, and all of Togetherness Media, and all of our viewers. I love you so much. And I salute you.
I don't even know if you guys see me after froze about 15 minutes ago.
I love you, Unc. All right, so that was my uncle, Mr. Michael D. Burton.
All right, bless y'all. It's good to be with you.
Love you. Bless you too. 7 deployments in the Navy, served our country, and we're so thankful. We're gonna throw to some music, and we're gonna come back and close out.
Gravity. Leon Morley, Modal House. And I'm Anthony Powers. Shouts out to the Know Your Rights camp. Know your rights out there, everybody. And make sure they don't get taken from you. One time. Yo. I was in a dark mood. I was in a dark mood. I was in a dark mood. I needed to be under flashing lights, motivated to invite music to get me high, elevate my attitude, release all my worries and wake my mind. Now I'm in the groove, free like I'm dancing across the sky. Free like I'm dancing across the sky. Now show what's real for you.
Great, beloved. Welcome back to Togetherness Media. We had so much fun, and it was such an honor today serving our community and serving those who have served for us. And once again, happy Veterans Day to all of our veterans. Thank you to my uncle, Michael D. Burton, for coming out, and thank you so much to Corey Black for being on the show with us today. Man, it was such a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
Sharing this desk with you, sharing these cameras with you, and sharing you with the world, and doing this here together with you on Togetherness Media.
Yeah.
You have anything you want to say to the people?
I mean, one of the themes today was keeping hope alive in the midst of battle, and I think this year has definitely been trying for a lot of people. I think that resilience has been tested, and keep on keeping on. You're doing amazing. You're not alone. There's a community everywhere. There's support everywhere. And thank you for having me. Thank you for including me. It's nice to be included. Get out of the house once in a while.
Man, it was amazing having you, and you brought so much to the show today, and I'm sure our viewers appreciated not just looking at my face the entire time, but also having an extra voice to hear and an extra brilliant perspective to hear as well. And once again, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you everybody for serving. Thank you Uncle Michael D. Burton, Operations Specialist, 7-year deployment in the Navy, a veteran of foreign wars, for not only the service that you did while deployed, but the service you've done for our veterans once you came back, and the service that you continue doing around, and also for being a great uncle for years too. And for everybody out there, as always, I want to remind you, be divine, and you are so loved. Check us out next show. We got more coming up, by the way. Tech Savvy and Hello Hollywood Daily. And we'll be back tomorrow with some more of this right here. Love you. See ya.